I want to start with the apology story, the amnesty story, and not amnesty talking about the illegals crossing the border and Democrats want to make them all Democrat voters. No. I'm talking, even though that's horrible too, I'm talking about the COVID amnesty. That's right. The people who were the worst during the pandemics now asking for forgiveness after ruining people's lives, shutting down businesses, not allowing you to be in the hospital with your dying loved ones, not letting you to attend their funeral while they gave George Floyd 16 funerals. No. They now want an apology, PJ, after I've seen many of my fellow streamers, my fellow people, content creators, telling the truth about what was happening during the COVID time, because really nobody had the absolute truth, even though they wanted to present themselves as experts. The media and the doctors and all these medical people like me and others out there were wrongfully given strikes on our channels for medical misinformation. We were taken off the platform. We were kicked off the platform. And now, PJ, they want to come and ask for forgiveness. What say you? I say no. I want tribunals. I want punishment. I want these people to pay. And I will pose this one question to you, PJ, as well. By them asking for forgiveness, is this their way of saying they're wrong?
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about this. Is this really is the final nail in the coffin on COVID. It's actually something I didn't expect to see. Like, them asking and pleading for amnesty makes sense, because what these people should be getting is, like you said, tribunals. We should see people in jail. We should see Dr. Anthony Fauci in jail. We should see Gretchen Whitmer in jail for killing your old folks. Cuomo, Gavin Newsom, all these people deserve something that they're not going to get. But what is crazy to me is I just didn't expect them to ever come out and say, we were wrong. And this is like as close as we're going to get is, hey, we're wrong, but we just didn't have the information. Like, that's how this article goes. It's like, we didn't have the information. If you were right, it was just because you were right on accident, which is total horse crap. We all have the same information. The reason that you and me and people like us were right is because we actually read the studies. We read the 2014 study that showed masks don't work. We read the studies showing that the COVID molecules were much smaller than the pores in your mask
or whatever, the cloth mask.
Right. And you remember remember when they were selling these cloth masks at Walmart and everywhere, and they said does not prevent the spread of COVID-19 right on the mask, and people all knew this and they admitted it, but they said, well, it makes me feel safe.
So for a virus that escaped a biolab, level 4 biolabbing, you have to have all this gear on to be in. That cloth mask was going to give you the same type of protection it gave you inside that level 4 lab.
yeah, exactly. The whole thing's ridiculous. And all the people that were shut down over this, the lab leak people that were shut down. Anthony Fauci came out and said this in the beginning too, and that's what everybody seems to forget. They forget that we did have the information, and the one thing we didn't have the information on, which was the COVID vaccine, we said, we don't have that information. Here's the information we do have. We know that cloth masks don't work. We know that the outdoor spread isn't a thing. We know that the 6 feet apart rule was a completely arbitrary, made up rule. Entirely made up. And so we knew all this. And then the one thing we didn't know was, is this COVID vaccine going to be effective? The results were not conclusive. They actually looked kind of bad. There was no long-term studies, but yet they were going to shut you down. They were going to take away your business. They were going to take away your job, not let you, like you said, see your loved ones. So the stuff that we didn't know is the stuff that they went above and beyond on with the in New York. They had the COVID vaccine passports. Remember when we were shut down for saying that? It was a crazy conspiracy theory.
Yeah, Washington, D.C. as well. The restaurants within that district. And, PJ, I will have a little bit more forgiveness towards family members and even some friends if they weren't complete tyrants about it. And for the ones that were, well, that will be a discussion down the road. But this guy right here sums it up pretty well. Let me go ahead and put it up on the screen for us to listen to this, because this sums it up really well.
Ross the Boss. I like this guy.
I don't know if you got a chance to watch this video.
Yep.
You did?
Yeah, I like Ross. He's a good guy.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Look. They want everybody to forget and forgive everything that happened during the pandemic. We were all in the dark. We were all afraid. Like, nah, bitch. Like, that was like we all got kidnapped and put together on an island, and then all of y'all bastards were like, we should eat them. And we're like, what the fuck? And then now they took us off the island, and we're just looking at you on the ride home like, and you're like, oh, wasn't that crazy? And we're like, nah, bitch, you tried to eat us. I didn't kick you out of no stores. I didn't ruin your job. I didn't tell you you couldn't come to the family reunion. I didn't tell you you had to drop dead of a heart attack because you didn't get the jab, so you're not welcome at this hospital. There ain't nothing to forgive on my side, baby boo. This is a you problem.
He's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's absolutely right.
And I'll also agree with you. I have a little bit of forgiveness or quote unquote amnesty for friends and family and people like that who are listening to the news and afraid. It was still their fault for not reading the research. It was right there in front of them.
Unwilling to even listen.
Unwilling to listen. But I have no forgiveness. There should be no amnesty for people like Fauci.
Political figure, for any mainstream media personality, puppet out there. They all should sit there and pay at some type of cost for this. There were people, PJ, that were pulled off of waiting lists for organs because they refused to get the jab. There were kids turned away from the children's hospitals that provided care for their advanced cancers that weren't allowed to be in their hospital unless they got the jab or their families got the jab. That is how bad they were. All the military members who got ejected out of the military because they refused to get the jab. There is no remorse. There is no forgiveness for those individuals in power that sat there and delivered that to the American people.
Yeah, I had a friend whose mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and they told her that she couldn't start chemo for 4 months because they were worried about the COVID stuff. So they shut down chemo treatment. They shut down organ I actually had another friend that needed a kidney, couldn't get that for many, many months. There was many people who died alone in the hospitals. I had family members I wasn't allowed to see before they died of different things because they were locked in the hospitals, and it was you have to be vaxxed and you have to have the mask and you have to only go up there like under these ridiculous, like full zoot suits type stuff. It was insane. And actually Jesse Kelly put this out on Twitter. He said, if you suffered hardship during COVID because of lockdown, social distancing, and mandates, reply with your stories below. And as you can see, we don't have to read all these, but there's people are not alone. This is a huge list of people that are complaining and had there's businesses that are never going to come back. There's family members that died alone that are never you weren't allowed to go to their funeral. George Floyd got his gold casket in funerals, but yeah.
So and we were there. I mean, I remember facing that decision here in Florida because the hospitals were still abiding by the federal guidelines and a lot of these things. My wife works at a hospital, and we had to make a decision. Were we going to stick by our convictions? Where we're going to stand up and just allow whatever to take place by refusing the jab? And she was willing to be fired for not taking the jab. Fortunately for us, her hospital decided to go against the federal guidelines, the CDC guidelines, and said, no, we're not going to force this onto our employees. If they can fill out they used a religion exemption thing to get a lot of their personnel away from the requiring of the jab. But it was uncertain still, even up to that point, even here in the state of Florida, because of the federal money that pours into these hospitals. They weren't going to get any federal money if their employees weren't 100% vaxxed up. And how many people lost their jobs? How many people suffered because of the consequences, PJ? And they want us to forget. There was we're in political season right now. We have all the signs and stuff for county commissioner and school boards and stuff like that. I saw somewhere where somebody was saying this person was for mask, and they had a little arrow pointing to the candidate's name. We must remember, and we must not forget, and we must not let these people around power, and they must pay, PJ.